Hi guys, how are you doing today? So, we have a topic that you should pay attention to. Like, this topic is something that I don't want you to miss out on, and this is why I am talking about it. Now, let me tell you the major reason why I'm doing this. Recently, a writer reached out to me and they sent their script to me. They wanted me to review it because they wanted to sell the script, so they wanted to know if it was good enough to be sold. But there was a problem. I could not get past the first 5 pages of that script. Why? The script was boring. And I'm not trying to be mean, that's just the truth. The script was boring, it was just there. And if you know screenwriting, if you know storytelling, you know that the first rule, or one of the first rules of storytelling, is that your first 5 pages, your first 10 pages has to be compelling enough to whosoever is reading, because that is the first 5 minutes of your film. So when a viewer starts watching the film, if they can't get past the first 5 minutes of the film, there's a high chance that they're not going to watch the film till the end. So that is why your the first few pages of your script has to be interesting. It has to be interesting to who's the actor that's reading it. It has to be interesting to the director. It has to be interesting to anybody that would hold the script, because if it's not interesting to the actor or the director or the producer, it would not be interesting. In fact, they might not even produce it. How much more it being interesting to the viewer that wants to watch or see the film. So in this video, I would be showing you how to avoid the mistake of writing boring scripts. And the first thing I would say is the rule of storytelling is show, don't tell. Exactly. When you're writing a script, you are describing real life scenarios. I like to say that the people in your story verse, I call it a story verse, some people call it a story world. The people in your story world, they are real people. It's true that it's fiction, but if you see it as just fiction, you would be held back sort of in your creativity in writing that story. You have to realize that the people in your story are real people. And truth be told, they are real people, because I mean, they have strengths, they have weaknesses, they have hobbies, they eat, they sleep, they wake up. Those are characteristics of living things, right? So you need to understand that when you're writing, you're not just telling us about some random character or imagery in your head. You are showing us the life of somebody. And this character has the ability to live in our world, because the moment a film comes to our world and it is being seen by people, people begin to relate and interact with the characters in your story. This is the reasons why superheroes are a thing. People, kids say they want to be like this superhero, they want to be that, like that superhero. It is because they see, even though it's make believe, they see that these characters are real to them. So don't treat your characters as unreal beings, because they are real beings, albeit in another world. So when you're writing, you show us. Don't just tell us that they ate bread and tea. Show us, how do they behave when they wake up in the morning? You know, do they get off their bed and just eat without brushing their teeth? You have to show us their real world, because that is what makes your story unique, right? The second mistake you need to avoid is writing a story that you have not yet mastered. Now, this is very important. If you write a story that you have not yet mastered, it becomes a problem, because you do not understand the heart of the story. Personally, I believe that stories have souls. I believe that you have to understand the heart and soul of that particular story and allow the story come to you. Allow the story unveil itself to you. My coach always says, allow the characters in your story tell you what they want. And it sounds kind of weirdo, but it's true. It's very true. You need to allow these characters tell you what they want, what they like, what they want to do, right? So that you do not force them into a box. So when you master the story, you are able to tell it well. You cannot just write about something that's happening in another city or in a cave, but you do not have any form of relatability to that story. So even if you've not lived in a cave before, you need to have done proper research, master the story before you come to tell it. If you have not mastered the story, it will tell, because your story will be boring. Another thing I want to say is your script or your story is first for entertainment. I know, trust me. I love stories of impact. I love stories that preach. I love stories that teach. I love stories that educate. But story is first entertainment before it is morals. At film school, they told us that story is 80% entertainment and 20% anything you want it to be. And it's very important that you know this, because if your story is not entertaining, people are not going to watch it. If they wanted to learn about stuff normally, they would just go grab a book in the library or just do basic research. But the real reason why people are after stories, why people, they go to work, life is already hard. After their 9 to 5, they come back. They want to relax. So if your story is all preachy, all teachy, all rigid, they will not flow, and it will make your script or your story to be boring. Another issue is weak conflicts, and this is something that has become like a thing, because I've heard a number of people give the same complaints that, oh, they're watching a story but that they feel like they could not really flow, and it's just because the conflict is weak. If the conflict of your story is weak, your story will be boring. In fact, from the beginning of the story, everybody knows where it's going to end, and you don't want that to happen. Fine, you're writing a love story, right? But you need to be able to sustain the conflict to the point that people begin to question, is this actually a love story? Is the boy going to end up with the girl, or is something going to pull them apart? So the conflict has to be solid. If you're writing a story, for example, about a rich guy that falls in love with a poor girl, which is, I mean, a very common storyline in Nollywood. A rich guy falls in love with a poor girl. Bef- what brings them together, right? What brings both parties together? You have to look for a very strong conflict. Don't just go the route of, oh, he's driving and then he hits her, and then because he hits her, he's entitled to, take her to the hospital, or he's obligated to take her to the hospital, and then from there she starts living in his house and they fall in love. It's cliche, for lack of a better word. Like, immediately I'm watching a film and I see a rich guy hit a poor girl. You don't need to tell me. I'm going to assume that they're going to fall in love. Except if you now want to give us a twist, maybe to say that that girl, maybe was someone he used to know in his past, or maybe the girl is even his sister, but he doesn't realize it yet. Then you see that things are beginning to get tense, because if he starts to fall in love with her and then the mother opposes and says, oh, you can't fall in love with this girl, and then he's like, why? I love her. And then over time a secret unfolds and the mom says, that girl is your sister. And then he's like, oh, how is she my sister? And then begin to bring out cankerworms, begin to unveil the past, open the Pandora box. You see that the conflict, it's more intriguing that way. So don't just go for the barest minimum. I've seen a lot of writers do this. I know that writing is is not one of the easiest things to do. But if you are always looking for the easy way out, your script will be boring. And boring scripts lead to boring films. So engage it, give it your best shot. In fact, one of the things I do is, no matter how great my conflict already is, I still ask myself, is this the best that it can be? Like, can I still do something to tweak this story just to upset it a bit? I recently did it to this story. For those of you that have seen the film, My version of love is the rich guy falls in love with a poor girl. But I did a number of things to offset the story. Firstly, I made sure that the girl was well educated. Secondly, I made sure that she was not really the poor girl. I mean, she was doing well for herself, albeit a recent graduate. Then towards the end of the film, I made her say I made her tell her best friend, who was a guy, that she was in love with him. You see, many people were on their toes when they saw that scene. I know, because I read the comments. People were like, huh? What's this girl doing? Are you not supposed to end up with the rich guy? So they wanted to see the film till the end. What did I do? I made the conflict stronger. You want to do that with your stories. Then another thing that makes your script boring is when your script is not well formatted. See, I cannot say this enough. If you are, if you want to be known in the industry, you want to be recognized, you have to learn script formatting. Like, it's a big deal. Don't trivialize it. Learn script formatting. I don't know if I'm going to do a video on that, but even if I don't, you can learn it online. Like, there are a lot of materials where you can learn how to format your scripts, and it will do you much good. Every time a producer, like I've gotten complaints from producers and directors to say, what is this? Most times the story is great, but because it's not well formatted, they cannot even get past the first page and they don't want to work with you. And then you start to think that they hate you. They don't. It's just because you've not proven yourself. And the last thing I want to say is that the reason your script is boring is because your characters are not compelling enough. And I promise you guys, I'm going to do an entirely different video on how to make your characters compelling. Guys, your characters have to be interesting. You need to watch them and fall in. You know how you're watching a film and you fall in love with the characters. You literally love them. Maybe the way they speak, the way they act, what they do. Don't just say, oh, Alex, M means male, of course, 29, handsome, kind, warm. No, that's not it. Who is Alex? Like, what does Alex do beyond his job? What are his hobbies? Is there any particular thing about Alex that will endear us to him? And I'm going to round up by saying this. In this film, Hearts Impossible, one of the reasons people loved that film is because of the compelling characters. The boy, oh gosh, I can't remember his name right now, right? But the boy that fell in love with an older girl, the way he acted, the way he behaved, it was really interesting because his character was funny. The uncle too, the girl herself, her brother, everybody had their different character. And that's what we call characterization in writing. When you give everybody a unique identity that cannot be replaced. Some of the reasons why you hear people call actors by a character's name, that the character they acted, is because it was compelling, right? There's a particular film that's trending. I didn't write it, but the person who wrote it, fantastic writer, by the way, I think Jamie Michaels, right? Love in every word. The character Odogu, everywhere everybody sees Uzo Arukwe today, they're calling him Odogu because that character was compelling and interesting. So when you are creating characters, you want to make sure that we love the characters you're creating. Even though they are villains, even though they are antagonists, let us love them. Let us love them enough to watch them. These are the things that you need to, these are the mistakes or things you need to take note of if your script will not be boring, or rather, if your script will be interesting enough to be read and also to be watched on videos. Okay, this brings me to the end of this video, and like, share, comment, subscribe. And if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. See you in the next video. Bye.